Колеги, УКМЦ продовжує свій насичений робочий день. Наступний
Our next briefing is Skype briefing and the results of investigation corruption on Skhidny, on reconstruction it, on repair it in Mariupol. We will have representatives of NGO Razom, Petro Andryushchenko, and Yaroslav Erokhin, and also Iryna Perkova, head of Romansky Telebachenia TV in that region. Good afternoon. Group together, and it was responsible for investigation of corruption, and they stole 2 million of 10 provided from the state budget to rebuild the district Vostochny, which was under shell. They have names, facts, and they ran investigation, and we would like to become known all over Ukraine. Good afternoon. Welcome from Mariupol, and I will introduce my account. For 2 months, we ran investigation as Yaroslav Erokhin and Maksym Borodyn, and we had negotiation of the district that was a shelter. That money was donated from the cabinet of ministers, and about 10 million hryvnia. And I will start with pre-story. We have only 20 minutes, so we'll try to show what we did. And on January 24, because of terrorist act, they shelled upon Vostochny district, and lots of people suffered. And private sector living quarters, and lots of assets of people. And on January 28, Cabinet of Ministers Regulation 56R provided about 10 million, and that two parts. And the first part was to provide assistance to victims and families of those who perished, and about 4 million to renovate the housing. We spoke to residents of people in Vostochny because we are there since the moment of tragedy, and communication with people was on a regular basis. All the time they postpone the payments, and the situation was they were telling them to wait, and very often there was no feedback. Very often documents were not adequate. February, March, April, May, the issue was not resolved. At the session, they made decision about providing money from the local budget for planting trees, and so many times they discussed this issue, and that was not important at that moment. To prove for city authorities to hear people, we visited sessions of the city council and meetings of the executive committee, and we had a poll. During the poll, we interviewed more than 2,000 people in Mariupol, and about many of them believe that the most important issue is to provide assistance to those who suffered in the district. Despite importance of the issue, city authorities didn't do anything. For one small document to make a list for the list of victims to be proved, and no deputy, no official was sent to resolve that issue. By common efforts, and on May 25, the document was signed, and the document here, it's on internet, the list. And that's what discussed for 4 months during one of the meetings with residents in Vostochny district. They told us that those buildings that were on the list, it's not true. That though we knew all the damages, and we went to all the buildings, and as a result of our investigation and our work, My colleague will inform you more about that. Maksym Borodyn, I am also the member of an NGO initiative group together, and together with our team, we had run this investigation.
I will not be talking about all the details. I will explain everything in simple words. What has happened at the meeting, at one of the meetings in May, with those who were victims in microregion 26. After the decision was made by the Cabinet of Ministers of allocating 26 million, we found out that 5 houses which were not damaged, were not hurt, were not priority houses, were included into the list. And we asked the question why these houses are in the priority list, and we paid attention to that situation. In the beginning, we went to this microregion, Vostochny, and we saw that there were no direct damages of the houses. Then we asked wrote to the department, head of the Department of Housing, Dmitriev, and we said, well, you know, there's information that some houses which are in this list, they have no damages. How did it happen, and what is it related to? At one of we were given the answer that you understand nothing. There are some damages. The damages were made by shelters, but how did the shelters reach this 9th floor? He could not explain. He said that the roof was damaged, and we decided to check it. Together with some residents of these houses, we went to the roofs, and we did photo and video registration of the situation there, of the condition of the roofs, and we then have these materials so that later we can show them, demonstrate them, and explain what the situation is. After that, we again send the request to our municipal council and to Donetsk regional state administration. The answers provided were that the houses were selected according to the criteria whether they needed some maintenance works and repair works. So basically, the houses were to be included, those houses were to be included where the damages could lead to ruination of the house, but where the roofs were with some defects, that wasn't the reason to include them into this priority list. Visually, the roofs we saw, they were just the standard roofs of a standard 9-storied house. It was, you can see that on our photographs, on our videos, there are no shelters that we found there. There were no real damages there. Sometime later, when we collected all the materials last week, we had a briefing and we invited all local journalists. We invited the journalists from regional publications and from TV. Out of local TV channels and mass media, no one came. Those who are loyal to the administration, the local TV channels did not come and did not give any information about that. So there were only some TV channels present, and in the result, there was absolute vacuum of information, and the municipal council says that we are they presented in such a way that some people saw the roofs and confirmed that there were some repairs made. Then we were told that some of the roofs were repaired. We went there. But in some houses the roof was repaired, and we started asking the question, what was the sense to repair the roof which was in satisfactory condition, which had no damages? We received the answer that you are not professionals, you do not understand anything. There were some damages which are not noticed by unprofessionals, but if visually there are no damages, how could the specialist see that there were specialists, and then how did they manage to do these repairs in a week if the roofs needed capital repairs? We talked to residents. The residents were saying, yes, the roof was leaking, but was that the problem that existed before the shellings? They were saying, yes, there was such a problem. The roof was leaking, but there was no need to include these houses into priority list of repairs. They needed to help those who had either to leave the apartment where for example, apartments were flooded because the roofs were so much damaged. So the situation is such. The department headed by Dmitriev continues to insist that all repair works were conducted correctly. There were no deviations. That was a necessary measure. They cannot present any photo or video evidence that there were some damages in the roofs. Now we gave all this information to the prosecution office, to the prosecutor office, and the Ministry of the Interior invited us, and we provided preliminary explanations already, and in the nearest days they have to include this case into pre-judicial investigation. I'm from initiative group Together. I will add to what my colleagues were saying. There are some things which confirm what was said. Out of 10 million allocated by the Cabinet of Ministers to provide assistance to Vostochная, to restore the housing infrastructure, the houses, only 3.5 million were allocated. According to the decision of the session of Mariupol Municipal Council, out of 3.5, 2 million were used for repair of houses which did not suffer from shellings in Vostochная. That's more than 80% of all the money spent for restoring the housing. Besides that, in Mariupol there are several multi-storied buildings which are in the result of the shelter of shellings in a very bad condition, and besides, 8 private houses are completely destroyed in the result of tragic events of the 24th of January when Vostochная was shelled at, and people are still living in the street. There's no assistance that these people receive. As to the results of the investigation, the official position of the authorities was given by the department, and yesterday at the meeting of the defense of Mariupol, they were blaming us, accusing us that we have no knowledge and that we are distorting the situation. During our investigation, we addressed the specialists. We invited some specialists who say that the expenditures were artificially enlarged, and also we talked to some other specialists who says that with such damages. The explosive wave could not lift the roof and put it back. Unfortunately, that is what in Mariupol people use this phrase as a joke. And we hope that our local authorities, after we make it all public, will not do what they are trying to do now. That is basically all we wanted to share with you in the result of our investigation, and we are ready to answer your questions if you have some.
Colleagues, thank you. Thank you for your report, and now we have questions. Please introduce yourself. And Sergey Malichuk, Ukrainian Crisis Media Center. Tell me, please, you gave numbers from 10 million hryvnia. They spent only 3.5 million for that. Do you have concrete names and documents, whether official request to prosecution, or did you take some official steps related to that? Do you have some initiative group that initiated these crimes? Thank you. Thank you for your question. As a result of this investigation, I will clarify, from 10 million, 6.5 million was sent to pay to victims, to families of the perished and wounded, and 3.5 million was supposed to be sent to renovate the buildings, damaged buildings. 2 million of the 3.5 was sent to renovate the to fix the buildings which were not under the shell and they were not damaged. Last Friday, on July 31st, as a result of, in the end of our investigation, and we had a national briefing in Mariupol, we sent an official statement to the prosecutor of Mariupol, and also sent copies of our statement to the crime to general prosecutor, to SBU chief, and to the Minister of Interior, and we are waiting for their reaction. Thank you. Next question. Sri Kudniku, agency Man Inform. A question to Maksym. Have you run your investigation? Maybe in those buildings live leaders of the city, management of the city, or some KGB officers or prosecution officers who lobby such repairs, because that happens. It's not the issue that somebody, a big guy is living there. The issue is, it seems like it's just the way to launder money. If we didn't ask direct questions, probably there would be no repair. Nobody would even cover those roofs, and they would just. So those buildings, like as any building, yes, some people are happy that that their buildings were repaired. Like anyone would be happy, but and people support that, of course, you have to help those who suffered because of the challenge, first of all. So, a question: who's ready? Who's ready to Copenhagen on these issues? If your requirements will not bring two results and court cases, are you planning to do something legally? Because abuse of the budget Under the previous budget, even big Polish politicians were put into a prison. You remember Lutsenko, Tymoshenko, and some others. That's an important issue because I understand this is for hundreds, thousands, or millions, only in Mariupol, and that's on the blood of people. Thank you. Thank you for your question. That's why we make a statement. We sent a letter to General Prosecution, to Ministry of Interior and SBU, because we have a negative experience of providing such claims to the local level. Even as those who they don't allow us to see materials of the case, it's a nonsense. And because then we come to court proceedings. We hope that we rely on the national level and level of the prosecution and SBU and the Ministry of Interior. If we don't see, and the country doesn't see the reaction, that we will have our hope that we will build a new country will melt. We, of course, use all legal instruments, pre-trial instruments, and this is important. Several thousands of people in their districts have not received assistance, and they live in buildings where it's impossible to live if they are not fixed. We keep in touch with those people, and we are a buffer which stops that anger. They are ready, which is completely apolitical anger of those people who are not receiving assistance. So, if there is no legal response, it can bring to negative consequences. And because of this circumstances around, it can bring to a really big outburst of negative energy. No more questions. Thank you very much. We hope that this situation will be resolved in the near future. Good luck. Thank you. Thank you. Our next briefing is at 12:30.